Hello, this is Professor Koji, Management 360, and this is Chapter 6 lecture on managing relationships with your direct reports, bosses, and your peers. Why develop effective relationships with direct reports, bosses, and peers? So there are five reasons that I've seen that are probably the best way to describe the why here. The first is social skills are a stronger predictor of executive success than our technical skills, and the need for social skills increase as one moves up the hierarchy. As I mentioned in the last lecture, if you are a new manager, your technical skills that once defined you as a standout performer become less important than your ability to support, guide, and take care of your employees. The higher up the food chain you go, the more important it becomes to be an influencer, a change agent, and someone who can lead a large group of diverse people. Second reason why, employees' commitment to their supervisor is a stronger predictor of their productivity than is their commitment to the organization. There is no emotional connection to your organization, but there is one to your direct supervisor. And as a manager yourself, you have to be creating a positive environment filled with trust, autonomy, support, and care. Third reason is that employees who have strong relationships with their managers are more likely to receive higher performance ratings. Having stronger relationships is both motivating and inspiring. You're more likely to work harder for a manager that you feel good to be around, as you want to try to keep them happy, and you want to continue to build that relationship, and your performance could be a direct contribute to that. The fourth reason is people who adapt to other people's needs and styles tend to get promoted more, receive higher salaries, which is a great thing, and have more mentors. But I want to ask you this and contemplate this. Why do you think that is? You may be thinking, why can't other people just adapt to me? It really boils down to people are imperfect. They have their own biases, their own personal rules and guidelines that they've created throughout their lives. They're narrowly focused. You need to be the one that is adaptive to everyone else's style, because each step on the growth ladder will present you another manager who is a different form from the previous manager, who has different experiences, different education, a different childhood upbringing, who may be a dog lover, who may love the Red Sox and hate the Yankees, etc. The point being here is that there are no two people alike, and you need to adapt to everyone you interact with. Fifth reason is people who have a strong network of relationships tend to live happier, healthier, and longer lives. The human connection is the most important factor to your happiness and well-being. We are social animals instinctively, and we survived our primitive times by protecting and procreating with each other, and we rely on others for emotional support to make us feel better. And when you don't have someone that you can rely on, you can pay someone to listen to you, like a psychiatrist. We enjoy sharing laughter with friends. We like exercising with others to keep us motivated. We join clubs, groups, and other social circles. We do all of this to just fulfill our relationship and our connection needs. Assumptions about all human relationships. There are two here. So high quality relationships are built on trust, respect, and reciprocity, and we are all fallible human beings. The quality of your relationship will be dictated, as it says here, on numerous factors. These are just three: trust, respect, and reciprocity. You want to be getting out of the relationship what you're getting in. If you're putting in all the work and someone's ignoring you or treating you badly, there's no reciprocity. There's no mutual respect there. So if you're not receiving that respect, that trust, if you don't feel like there's an equal percentage of a give and take, then you're not going to be developing a high quality relationship. It's just going to be one way, and it's going to be totally not fulfilling for you. And we're all fallible human beings, right? So assumptions about all human relationship is that people will make mistakes. Where as long as people have emotions, where emotions can lead to bad decisions or decisions where it's a heat of the moment. We're all susceptible to poor behavior or poor decision making. So that's why we're fallible. Human beings are fallible. We're not robots. And so it's important that when you are in an employee, if you're in a manager, an employee-manager relationship, is that that employee is not going to be doing things right all the time. You want to ensure that there is the morals and the ethics of that person are fallible and that they're not breaking those rules because those are choices. But in overall instance or overall circumstance, people are fallible. Okay. Nobody is as powerful as we make them out to be. We hold people on a pedestal because they are socially iconic. So as an example, and to give you examples of that, entertainers, tech CEOs, athletes, maybe even the Kardashians. We view these people almost like they're superheroes or at least superhumans. And although they were blessed with talent and very good luck, they are not all powerful. And most of what you see is an illusion. Social media paints misinformed portraits of people, and viewers get sucked into that false reality, and they try to emulate that, and it's impossible because it's not true. So what I say is appreciate and learn what others have done or accomplished and how they present themselves and maybe how they've done it, but don't mirror them. Don't try to be like any other person. Take away what you think can help to contribute to your personal growth, but don't take too much from one source as you'll trap yourself into an impossible situation. Next section is managing relationships with direct reports. Effective leaders create work cultures that inspire and enable high performance. And we're looking into situational leaderships. Situational leadership refers to managing in the moment. It's the steps to situational leadership includes identifying the task or activity. Obviously, you can't be leading someone if there's not something to lead them to. Second is determine how prepared your employer or employees are for that task. What is their willingness to what's their desire or confidence to do the job, or their ability? What is their knowledge, experience, and skill to do the job? Are you aligning the proper resources? Essentially, what this is saying is, are you aligning the proper resources for what the task is requiring of them? It's very important, and you'll know this when you've hired them, when they're in certain positions, and when there's projects that are coming down to you and you have to delegate them. You'll know this, but it's important to understand this at a higher level. And the third is giving proper direction for your team to be successful, which is what shows you adapt to your leadership style. And that includes task behavior. Tell the people, tell your employees what, how, when, and where to do the task. Now, offer some relationship behavior, such as providing emotional support, especially if this is a stretch assignment. A stretch assignment is when you're giving an employee something that is a little bit more difficult than they're used to doing, but you see a lot of potential for them to grow and you want to help them grow as a professional, so you give them a little bit something that's out of their reach. And they may need some emotional support. They may need you to say, I know you can do this, and I'll be here if you fall. That emotional support is critical to allow them to gain the confidence to do it. What is the best leadership style? There is no one best leadership style. Your leadership style should depend on the needs of the follower and the situation. This is something you should live by, not in just your professional life, but your personal life as well. You're going to meet a lot of different people, new situations. You're going to be in social groups or networking events, whatever it might be. The best leadership style is to not have a leadership style. And you will come across people who are rigid, have their own way. And then you will also, and not to say you're going to be this chameleon, you will fall into your path, your pattern, what makes you feel comfortable. So to say that you won't have a leadership style is a little misleading. You'll have one as a default, right? It's based on your personality, your experiences. You'll gravitate to one. But the point here is for you not to employ that leadership style every single time or for every single situation. You have to be able to have a variable skill set, variable level of approaching situations, and read the situation for what it is. Don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. Pay attention, ask questions, understand the situation so you can provide the proper guidance based on that situation. Next section is situational leadership model, managerial styles. So different, sorry about that. And I'm going the wrong way. All right, so the situational leadership model styles, there are 4 here. Telling or directing. So this is low on the relationship-focused behavior and high on task-focused behavior. So you're not interested in the situation when you're telling and directing about, you're not looking to have a chit chat. It's so consider this, that the fire chief was a fire and he needs or she needs to direct the fire people to go to a certain place. He's not going to ask for, she's not going to ask for feedback from you. It's telling or directing. It's low on a relationship focus. She's not trying to build relationships, but it's task focused because you need to get something done. Next is persuading or coaching. It's high on both the task and the relationship-focused behaviors. Participating or supporting is low in the task-focused behaviors and high in relationship-focused behaviors. That one is more when you're giving a lot of flexibility, autonomy to an employee, that you are allowing them to take the task in their own direction. They may have done this project or task a million times. This is just another one. You're giving it to them. You're not so concerned about how they do the task because they're more apt to know how to do it. You may provide some nuances that are new to the project, but overall they know how to do it. And you're more so just trying to build up that relationship-focused behavior. The last one is delegating, low on both task and relationship-focused behavior. Delegating is almost like participating or supporting with no regard to explaining, really explaining or trying to build any type of relationship-focused behavior. It's essentially an email comes in on something that needs to get done and you forward it on to an employee and they know what to do and you don't need to explain it because it's like walking a dog. It's very simple. And delegating is more so for the projects that are more mundane in nature. When you're getting into projects or tasks that are new, that are high profile, that are important, that have a time deadline, that have huge client visibility, even though you might be delegating it, there might be some information within the email, like I just mentioned, that may explain it better. Or in some cases, though, that might not be delegating task, it might be more of a participating, supporting managerial style for those situations. Steps for using situational leadership when you're determining a task or a goal: assess followers' ability and willingness to accomplish the goal or task, choose and use appropriate leadership style, adjust style over time, reward, increase ability and a willingness to do the task with periodic positive reinforcement. And this is a leadership model called the Dennison Leadership Model. And it goes into the following. So it kind of includes these 4 components. So one is the mission. It's defining the strategic direction, focusing on goals and creating a shared vision. Next is consistency, defining core values, creating agreement among different people and groups, and managing coordination and integration. High involvement, empowering others through information and participation, enabling a team a team orientation, developing people as well, and adaptability, enabling change and innovation, and emphasizing customer focus and promoting organizational learning. Well, it's just one leadership model that is pretty simplistic, straightforward. And when I say simple, straightforward, I meant the concepts are. Actually implementing these things is a whole other challenge, but it's good for you to understand the different models out there, the different approaches, and this is just one of them. Next section is empowerment. Employees feel empowered when they believe their work is meaningful, feel competent, believe they have freedom to make choices about how to do the task, believe they can have an impact and influence their work and environment. What really sums this slide up is you showing care, compassion, openness, and respect to the employee, and that they are important, and that you are showing and displaying your confidence that they can do this task on their own with little supervision. That is the whole essence of empowerment. Empowerment is you relinquishing the reins and not overseeing them, not being a hawk on their shoulder, but allowing them the freedom to be creative in how they approach a problem, how they approach a project, how they approach a task. Empowerment is giving them the opportunity to do it on their own, and you being there when it's needed. Now, one thing I'll say about empowerment does not necessarily mean that you give them a task and they go off and do it. You should still be doing periodic touch points, maybe what's called project toll gates, if it's a project, meaning that every time a major milestone in the project is completed, that they come and they present and they say what they've done, what they've accomplished, and like that. So empowerment doesn't mean ignoring your employee, it's just giving them the autonomy and the freedom to do it their way. All right. Work conditions that inspire empowerment, low role ambiguity. If you are not clear on what it is you need to do and what is expected of you, that will contribute to being less confident and not feeling empowered to do your job because you don't know exactly what to do. You can't control it. It's important as a manager that you are defining what exactly the role is. And beyond that, really defining what's required of the employee for that particular task or project as well. That's even more important because it might be a stretch assignment that you want them to do, and they're going to need more than just what the role is. They're going to need to know what your expectations are of this new project. Working for a boss who has a wide span of control. It's important that, again, your delivery style, your management or leadership style should be flexible and situational. And you should not default to a micromanager. Micromanaging is essentially saying, I don't trust you to an employee, if that is your default standard management style. Now, micromanagement is good in certain situations. If you have a new employee, even if you have an employee who's been there for 10 years, just starting a brand new assignment or going a different role, or the micromanagement in the beginning as a support structure is fine, but micromanaging as your default is not good and should be avoided. Socio-political support, access to information. So if you're withholding information and they have to keep asking you for the information, you're not empowering them to do things on their own. You're still micromanaging them because you're asking them to go through you. You have to make sure that they have access to that information or data that's required to do the work. A participative work climate and education and training. Dysfunctional obedience to authority. Avoiding blind obedience to authority, managerial strategies. So avoiding blind obedience to authority. So create a work context that promotes self-awareness, keep trappings of authority to a minimum, regularly encourage employees to speak their minds and question the status quo, reward employees who challenge or resist what they perceive to be troublesome. you don't want a bunch of yes women and yes men. You want people who are able to speak up, are able to provide ideas, especially when those ideas could lead to better ways of doing things, to improving a process, to improving a product, to improving the overall team performance. You want to foster that climate of openness, because if you don't, then it's going to more likely make people feel like they're walking in eggshells around you. So definitely encourage it and reward it. So avoiding blind obedience to authority, personal strategies for yourself. Be aware of your attitudes toward authority. And what that means is make sure that you don't have the attitude that, well, if the authority says, or if the manager says, or my supervisor or the director says I should do it, then it must be done. Although that's true in most situations, that does not mean that you can't question it, right? Recognize your own personal responsibility. Prime yourself to be ready to leave an unethical situation. You should never, ever do anything unethical, especially if it's known, right? And that there's some situations where you may not know, and it could be far and few between where you're in an unethical situation, you don't know it. But if you certainly know it's unethical, you definitely want to leave that situation immediately. Recruit peers to join you in the resistance. Powers in numbers. You know, when you have that support, the people who believe in what you believe, then it's very tough to hold you down. Distance yourself from a situation to get perspective and kind of regroup. Take a restroom break, get away from the situation and think about the next step. Regularly practice small acts of courage. So speak up in certain situations, question things. Just a little bit, just speaking up is, and even in situations, if you're at McDonald's getting a Big Mac and you said no pickles and they put pickles on it, going back up there and saying I asked for no pickles, please remake it, that's an act of courage, and it helps you to practice and get comfortable with it. Designing organizations for compassion. Too often we hear about organizations that fail to live up to their moral obligations to their members in society. We are less likely to hear about organizations that show extraordinary generosity and compassion in times of need. All organizations have members who experience serious illness, death of family members, and other events that create human suffering. Yet there's a great variety in how organizations respond to this suffering. In some organizations, employees are empowered to reach out and quickly do whatever it takes to help those in need. In other organizations, employees' efforts to help others in need are hindered with a stick-to-business culture and paralyzing red tape. You'll see incredible acts of kindness and courage coming from frontline staff in certain situations where the company is encouraging it. And let me give you an example of two scenarios where it's kind of the opposite, but this is a very good story. So there was a situation, there's two instances and two opposing companies where the receptionist allows people to go in and out beyond the reception desk, which goes into the building. So we'll just say company A and company B. So company A, the CEO and his cronies come in behind him, and the CEO says to the receptionist, and by the way, both these organizations, you're required to show your ID badge. So the CEO says, "Oh shoot, I forgot my I forgot my badge. Just let me in." And the front line desk person, or I'm sorry, the receptionist says, "No, I'm sorry, sir. I can't let you in because you don't have your ID, and that's our policy." And he says, "Do you know who I am?" And she goes, "Yes, I do." And then the CEO's assistants and other folks say, are you joking? Let him in." And she says, "No. The policy here, sir, that you laid out is that no one's allowed in the building unless you have a an ID. So she's ensuring the safety of the building. She's ensuring that consistency is being shown no matter who you are. Now, in company A, the CEO says, I respect and I will accept your decision not to let me in, and I appreciate what you just did. I will get someone to bring down my badge, and then you can let me in. In company B situation, the receptionist is the same. She says, sorry, sir, you can't come in because of your badge. And that CEO fired her. So the point of the story is ensure there is compassion for what people do within the organization, especially if you get to a CEO position, which maybe one of you will, that it does not matter who you are. It does not matter how high you are. Respecting others and showing compassion for others is vitally important. All right, managing your relationship with your boss. So this is a nice simple grid. First line is understand your boss, understand yourself, and take action. So understanding your boss. So there's something called managing up. Managing up is essentially the act of helping to ensure that your manager has some priorities straight, is organized, is focused on things that they may have missed. You're essentially helping them be a better manager. So anyway, understand your boss. Goals, objectives, pressures, strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, preferred and non-preferred work styles. This is your ability to observe, to ask questions, to engage in dialogue, to solicit this information. You can't help your boss. Essentially, you can't help your boss help you and the rest of your team members, the other management staff, if you're not understanding their motivations, you're not understanding what they're good at, what they're not good at, what you can help with. Understand yourself. What are your goals, objectives, and pressures? Your strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, preferred and not preferred working styles, in reaction to authority. And take action. Develop a set of mutual expectations. Meet both your needs and your boss's needs. Keep your boss informed of progress or any issues. Be dependable, honest, and straightforward. And use your boss's time and resources wisely. You want to be there when he needs you. You don't want to be there when he doesn't or when she doesn't. It's very important that you're not being too needy, but instead you're being one that will help your manager, your boss, be successful. Improve your relationship with your boss. Do you know your boss's goals? Do you give your boss what he or she needs to be successful? Do you know your boss's preferred working style? Do you know your boss's strengths and weaknesses so you can compensate? This just kind of goes along with the previous slide, but this is more of a question form. And these are great questions to ask yourself. Do you know these things? And if you don't, just ask and try to find out. And continue. Does your boss trust you? Do you keep the boss informed? Do you show appreciation to your boss? Do you use your boss's time and resources wisely, which is kind of a duplicate thing? And do you tell the boss what your goals, wants, needs are, and what you need to be successful? So a lot of times when you may be asking, when do I do this, right? Do I just call them out of the blue or call her out of the blue? No, you want to make sure you're doing the right time and place. You should be having one-on-ones with your boss or your manager, weekly or bi-weekly, or it might be. And these are the times where you can start to build that relationship up and ask these types of questions. Dealing with a problem boss. That's fun. All right. Analyze the situation. Are you part of the problem? You got to be inwardly looking and ensure that the first place you look when you're dealing with an issue or situation, no matter professionally, personally, is what could I have done differently, or what am I doing to contribute to this issue? Study the boss, styles, needs, wants, commonalities. That kind of goes along with the relationship building. You got to build relationships, a mutual trust. So when you have your one-on-ones, so you're soliciting this information, you know it. And then when you come to a situation where you have a problem with your boss, you may be able to better diagnose the situation. Well, if you know that your boss is mad when the Yankees lose the previous night and he's mad, then you can kind of understand that and prepare for it. That's just an example, but you know what I mean. So get clear expectations and feedback measures. So if your boss is unhappy about your performance, are the goals clear? And are they clear to both of you? Sit down and review them. Say, okay, I see you're upset. Let's just go over what you're expecting of me. Let's make sure that I understand what you need from me, and keep careful records. Another key thing too is, especially if you have a problem boss who's just awful, which is possible, that if he decides or she decides out of the blue to fire you, you need and he or she fires you without just cause, then it's important that you're noting all the behaviors and all these activities and these situations that show the instability of that manager, and why maybe what the causes of termination are not true, and it's actually on them. Keep careful records if you start to, and do it right away. Don't wait till you get fired and it's like, yeah, what did we do? I don't remember. Keep a log. Trust me. Continuing dealing with a problem boss. Search for common ground and something good in your boss. So if you know he likes or she likes fishing or bowling or knitting, whatever, cooking, try to find some common ground that, again, strengthens relationship. Create and celebrate small wins, which I love. Confront the boss, which is could be tough, but you just might have to do that. Look at what is happening as a learning experience. This is good. So pick up all the bad stuff your manager's doing and remember those things, and remember not to do them yourself, or don't talked about on a previous slide, not mirroring other people's styles, right? But what you can do is not only emulate some things from good managers, but you can avoid other things in bad managers. So equal learning opportunities for good and bad bosses. Have empathy for the boss. The situation there is that they lost their mother or their father or a kid or whatever it might be, and they've just been in a terrible state, and they usually don't act like this. Then you want to show some empathy for them in that situation, and give them the benefit of the doubt. Or leave. If it's getting that bad, leave. People don't leave organizations. They leave bosses. They leave managers. Especially, and you could be, depending how big your organization is, you may have internal job boards. There's Indeed.com. There's Monster. There's LinkedIn job postings. There's job postings everywhere. And that's why it's important for networking as well, that you are connecting with others and building those relationships, so there's opportunities out there for you if you do decide to leave. Lessons learned from an intolerable boss. Patience and how to deal with adversity. If you have a boss that can't deal with pressure, then recognize that. Recognize how you feel when your manager is in that position and not being stable. Remember how that feels, because that's the way your employees are going to feel if you get into that situation. Coming to terms with events that are out of your control. If the market crashed and you guys lost a ton of money in your investment firm, it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do. The financial crisis, the COVID pandemic, these are things that are out of your control. Businesses have been shut down, lose tons of money, people get laid off. You got to come to terms with things that are out of your control. How to manage well by watching someone manage poorly. Kind of just alluded to that already. Managing relationship with your peers, so fellow managers. Networking is a systemic process of building and maintaining relationships based on mutual benefit. Talked about networking just a little while ago. I think the biggest professional network out there is LinkedIn. You have immediate access to many people within your organization, many people in your industry, outside of your industry. There's LinkedIn groups for specific things like Six Sigma or drone flying or bartending, whatever it might be. Networking is an important piece, and if LinkedIn really helps you if you don't like talking to people or going to networking events like the old school way you used to do it. LinkedIn is a perfect way to do it. Although there will never be anything more powerful than in-person networking. It just won't be. So why do you network, or why networking? So most of us work in socially intricate organizations or even remote organizations where you're just home all day, where we need the help not only of direct reports, but colleagues, superiors, and outsiders to accomplish our goals. This often leaves us with a power gap because we must depend on people over whom we have little or no explicit control. So essentially the saying is, don't be forced to choose someone, have options where you can choose someone. Characteristics of effective networks: they're broad, they're diverse, they're high status contacts, strong ties, people with whom you interact often and know well, and you have some weak ties, people with whom you interact infrequently and you don't know very well. And why is that important? Because that means if you have weak ties, that probably means that you're reaching out of your comfort zone. You're trying to build a relationship with people you don't know, that maybe be in your industry, maybe thought leaders, experts in certain fields, authors, professors, whatever it may be. That's just your way to bridge to other avenues of your network. Okay. Minority network groups. So groups that bring together female or minority employees for the purpose of meeting each other, helping each other succeed, and identifying issues within the organization that are a common concern. Especially these days and times, this is important. And a lot of organizations are adopting these types of groups, and not just now. They've been there in the past, but I think the spotlight is being shined on these types of groups and networks. But it's important for people that are going through similar situations to have a safe environment for them to talk and start to identify some situations or even policies, procedures that are affecting their well-being, affecting them as professionals and their growth. And minority, depending on who it is, but them having their own voice and coming together, they'll feel more comfortable as well. And it's a tricky topic and situation, but it's one that needs to be discussed. They need to have groups, and everyone needs to feel empowered and feel they have an opportunity to change the organization. Your network flourishes by what you contribute to it, not by what you can draw from it. So, the best thing you can do in these situations is try to be a contributor. So if you are on LinkedIn, just for example, again, write a blog, maybe once a month. Write your thoughts on how people can improve their time management skills, or do whatever it takes, or even when people have a work anniversary, when they get a new job, congratulate them. Ask them about the job. Hey, what are you doing now? Those things build, strengthen relationships, and it helps to bring, we talked about reciprocity, right? It starts to draw the reciprocity back to you when you start to contribute to it, and you'll get it back. And lastly, regardless of whether we are direct reports, peers, or bosses, and we are often all three, we are all fallible human beings who depend on each other's help and goodwill for our professional effectiveness, career success, job satisfaction, and well-being. Good way to close it out.